In the next few minutes, we're going to uncover a signal that's been hiding in your patient's blood work. It's a really powerful predictor of mortality that's been in plain sight this whole time. And trust me, by the end of this, you will never look at a routine CBC the same way again. So let's start with this. What if a simple, routine blood test could tell you which of your critically ill cardiac patients is at the absolute highest risk of dying right there in the hospital? I mean, think about the sickest patient on your service right now. That clue is probably already there, just waiting for you to see it. Okay, now what if that exact same value could also help you forecast a poor outcome for your patient with an intracranial hemorrhage? The connection between these two incredibly different, incredibly critical scenarios is exactly what we're about to unpack. So the answer is the platelet-lymphocyte ratio, or PLR. It's just a simple calculation. You take the platelet count and divide it by the lymphocyte count. You get these numbers on every single CBC. Now, the evidence we're covering today is solid, and it comes from two major studies. The first is platelet-lymphocyte ratio as a new predictor of in-hospital mortality in cardiac intensive care unit patients, which was published in Scientific Reports back in 2021. The second is a meta-analysis from PLOS One in 2025 called Role of the Platelet-Lymphocyte Ratio as a Prognostic Indicator in Patients with Intracranial Hemorrhage. And of course, the links to the full bibliography are right there in the description below.
All right, first things first, let's look at the really robust evidence that comes from the cardiac ICU.
And we're not talking about a small study here. The researchers looked at data from over 5,500 CICU patients. That's a huge sample size, which gives these findings some serious statistical weight. And when you look at the data, the trend is just so clear. Patients who were in the lowest quartile for PLR had an in-hospital mortality of about 8.3%. But for patients in the highest quartile, that number shoots up to 13.9%. It's a textbook dose-dependent relationship. As the ratio goes up, so does the risk. Now, here's the crucial part. The PLR isn't just an innocent bystander that happens to be elevated when people are sick. Nope. After the researchers adjusted for everything else, age, other health problems, even severity of illness scores, a high PLR still stood out as an independent predictor. In fact, it carried a 55% higher odds of death. That's significant. So that's the cardiac story, but it doesn't end there. Let's pivot to the next study because this signal is just as strong over in the world of neurology. A huge meta-analysis, one of those studies that pools all the data from multiple other studies, it confirmed this exact same link. An elevated PLR is consistently tied to worse outcomes in patients who've had an intracranial hemorrhage. And these forest plots, they really just paint the picture perfectly. You don't have to be a statistician to see what's going on. On the left, you see the link to poor functional outcomes. On the right, the link to higher mortality. In both cases, all the evidence is pointing in the exact same direction. A high PLR is a major red flag. Okay, so this brings up the big question, right? Why? Why does this simple little ratio carry so much prognostic weight? Let's get into the biology behind it. I want you to think of the PLR as a kind of biological storm gauge. It's not just measuring one thing, it's measuring two dangerous processes that are happening at the same time. On one hand, you have high platelets. That points to a prothrombotic state, a tendency to form clots. On the other hand, you have low lymphocytes. That's a classic signal of intense systemic inflammation and immune stress. So the PLR captures this perfect storm of thrombosis and inflammation all in one number. And the researchers from that big CICU study, they summed it up perfectly. They said the ratio combines these two powerful concepts, platelet aggregation and inflammatory pathways, into a single, really powerful marker. So this is all fascinating, but what does it actually mean for your day-to-day practice, right? How do we take this data from the journal page and actually put it to work at the bedside? Well, here are 3 simple, actionable steps. First, just start looking for it. Add the PLR to your mental checklist every single time you review a CBC on a critically ill patient. Second, use it to risk stratify. A high PLR is your flag that this patient might have a much rockier course and probably needs closer monitoring. And third, use it to communicate. It is a concrete, objective marker you can bring up in team handoffs or even in family discussions to help explain just how sick their loved one is. So the main takeaway is this: a vital clue to your patient's prognosis has been hiding in plain sight this whole time. It's simple, it's already there in the labs you order every day, and it is a powerful, independent predictor of who is at the highest risk. So the next time you're reviewing a CBC on one of your really sick patients, look for the PLR. That hidden signal, well, it's visible to you now. How are you going to use it to inform that patient's care? Disclaimer and bibliography in the description.